I'd like to begin this video with an apology. I think I messed something up. I didn't realize that in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles set there was a card that milled your opponent for half of their library. If I realized this sooner, I could have gotten this video out so much faster. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and I'm going to use a dealer's choice donation deck list from Edison to play something fun that I saw today from a local level event. This deck list comes to us from someone called the Garbanzo Bean Queen, and it features an entire playset of Kitsune's Technique split between the main deck and sideboard. So this is a 6-mana card, which we don't ever want to play it for 6 mana if we can help it. Things have gone wrong. Things have gone wrong if we get to 6 mana while playing this deck. And target opponent mills half their library, rounded up. For the sneak cost of returning an unblocked attacker you control to your hand, you can pay this for 2 mana instead, which is pretty darn cool. Seeing as this deck already wants to run a bunch of crabs that have landfall, mill your opponent for 3, it's like not that big of a deal to sneak something in. And, you know, if it's legal, when in Rome, might as well play Tamiyo. This deck is taking a very different approach to mill than what the decks usually take. This version is on the entire playset of both Ponder and Brainstorm, rather than just filling the deck with things that you want to draw and cast to mill your opponents. And so it is leaning more heavily on a handful of like load-bearing cards, I suppose, and is just trying to find them more consistently. I'm not sure if we should just put more copies of Kitsune's Technique into the main deck. I expect that I'm going to board them in a lot. It's just so much milling. But I'm gonna lean on the deck building experience of the person who put this together, rather than making a whole bunch of changes and then going like, damn, I really needed those surgicals in game 1. And I've kind of laid this deck out in a funny fashion. We have Daze's Force of Wills and main deck Surgical Extraction as free interaction versus our opponents. And we might hemorrhage cards while using these effects, and that's part of the reason why mill often doesn't maximize on things that look like this. But if we're just going to do stupid things with Tamiyo and we funnel our mana into cracking clues, then having a bunch of free spells, and Archive Trap also kind of counts as a free spell here as well, is actually really good. Tasha's Hideous Laughter is a very high variance card, and I think this is part of the reason why the entire playset of Kitsune's Technique is in the deck. So for example, if your opponent is playing Sneak and Show and they flip an Emrakul and an Atraxa, you have milled 2 cards. And I think we're often going to find ourselves swapping Tasha's for Kitsune's Technique, or in a matchup where we don't expect to need Surgical Extraction, getting rid of Surgicals and boarding in the Kitsune's Technique. We do have our required playset of Leyline of the Void, because that's where Legacy is at right now, unfortunately. And then we have a few ways to adjust the speed of our deck. We can go into stock up if we need to rebuild versus a control deck. We can go into Murktide Regent if we just need something with power and toughness to close out the game. And then we have yet another sideboard counterspell if it makes sense to do so. I'm not sure how I feel about Mystic Sanctuary. I'm kind of the opinion that this is just an ETB tapped land that doesn't cast Hedron Crab, Ruin Crab, and Tamiyo on turn 1. And I desperately want to cut it. I might make that change. I'm going to make that change. I think the early game in current Legacy matters more than the late game. And in playing Daze, which does require us to have an island, that does make some things that normally might be in this deck a little worse. So normally I am really, really big on Obero, Palace, and the Clouds in these lists because it allows you to kind of get some extra repeated value off of your various crabs. But that doesn't cast Daze, which seems like a little bit of a deal breaker here. So let's have some fun today. Let's mill some creatures. Maybe we'll mill some Emrakul's and be miserable. But we should have a good time. And folks, if you need any magic cards, please consider getting them from my sponsor, toamagic.com. I love these folks. They get me my orders quickly. I am still waiting on some cards from another retailer that I had to order from. And my TOA cards arrived in like 3 days. The other retailer, it's been like 3 weeks now. With that being said, let's battle. So I'm going to keep this hand under the assumption that Tamiyo plus Daze is stupid, but this doesn't really look much like a mill hand, right? And that might often be the case. We might just be kind of a funky Tamiyo counterspell control deck that ultimately ends up winning with mill cards. Lotus Petal is fine. This is a Patchwork Automaton. A Cory Steel Cutter. I probably just counter that. That's a good Magic the Gathering card. Alright. And Crack Bobble. Alright. In before the comments are like, you should have surgicaled the Bobble with the Bobble trigger on the stack. Alright. Double Bobble redraw. I mean, yes. Make my clue. I think I am good just transforming my Tamiyo. I don't know if I want to like surgically extraction a Cory Steel Cutter or anything. I very reasonably could. This probably mills for a lot. I think I'm gonna go bam. Let's reverse this order. Let's go bam, bam, transform Tamiyo while leaving Tamiyo creature on top. I've already played my land. I dazed. Okay. Then I can't fetch away Tamiyo creature. That's fine. I think we are gonna nix Cory Steel Cutter here. We'll do it in draw step to give my opponent a chance to draw one. All right. This is a little bit of a funky build. Funky positive connotation, to be clear. It is incredibly awkward that I blew this surgical extraction with all this stuff coming. But my opponent's deck is quite cool. All right. One problem eliminated. I might end up Tamiyo minusing this surgical back. So there's the welder. There's the skateboard. And that gives haste, right? Does give haste. You may tap my planeswalker. I will allow it. This was used. This was used. Welder has haste. And then welder can hit my Tamiyo for 1. The Goblin Welder timeline we live in is a little odd, but here we are. Land drop, please mill. I would like to hit Sewer Valence Cam naturally. That would be swell. We'll do this again. All right. Did not hit. I think I am now doing Tamiyo minus on the surgical, which will kill this Tamiyo, and then I will put a new one into play. And there's going to be a couple different combo angles that I have to finesse here. From actual factual chromatic star, you do not see a lot of that. So this is kind of good versus surgical, kind of. This is also a thing with flash. Multiple surgicals. Things are going to get weird. So please mill. Okay. Grinding station in graveyard. I don't know that I am excited about this land. I don't know, it's a mill 6. I will take it. And I will just draw that land on my opponent's turn. Opponent is going for grinding station. So this will also go infinite with Sewer Valence Cam. I think I just have to let that happen. My opponent draws a card for their chromatic star. And my opponent is going to get this. I think I have to save both of these. It just feels bad. This Goblin Welder is pretty strong, and I don't have traditional removal spells. Here we go. All right. Oh, please don't put one of these. Oh, this is awkward. So this has flash. So I can attempt to surgical this, and then my opponent can just flash another one in response. Oh, this is this is annoying. All right. So here is this attempt. Yeah. And then this happens. So now I need to wait for this one to get welded out and then try to remove it. And I'll have two different surgical extractions on the stack. I guess the problem is this one getting welded into the other one. I don't think I can thread this successfully. So I can use this surgical to stop this activation. But my opponent can just Agatha's Soul Cauldron the cam and probably just win anyway. But I think this keeps me alive another turn. Oh, man, the fact that this has flash was like incredibly relevant here. All right. So there goes 1 cam, 2 cam, 3 cams. This activation now fizzles. And this doesn't have its target either. So I have weathered the turn. Or have I? My opponent sacrifices this. Fuck, to untap the welder. I did not weather this with 2 surgicals. Yeah, so Sewer Cam plus Mox Opal is infinite mana, and my opponent can use that infinite mana. I think they've got this, because they can also just untap Welder, sack Sewer Valence. Okay, so they get Mox Opal. Okay, they're going to cast Mox Opal with Emery. I think I'm dead. I'm just trying to kind of work it out. I haven't seen a combo quite like this before. All right, so Sewer Valence Cam comes back in, untaps the Grinding Station and the Welder. Grinding Station, sacks Cam, targets Welder. Okay, so opponent is going to make it so they can cast Sewer Valence Cam. I mill some cards. Where's the mana? Oh, I see. So they're going to use a second Welder activation to cast Sewer Valence Cam, and then I believe that that repeats that loop now. I think I've got it. The Lotus Petal casts Cam. Okay. All right, I think I see now. GG, sweet deck Mr. Percy wants in. Hold on. So it seems like Surgical is not actually going to be good enough here. I think I want Leyline of the Void. And the mill plan is a little awkward here. Tasha's is still going to be great as it exiles. But otherwise feeling my opponent's graveyard is awkward. Do I need both Surgicals and Leylines? I don't think Daze is enough as interaction. I think I'm going to get rid of that. If I get the Leyline, the Surgical is quite bad. All right. Consign does some relevant stuff. I don't want to play this matchup. I think I'm good with these and these, and I try to lean on exiling the stuff. Consign is weird because it can, I think, stop a short-term combo turn, but doesn't actually permanently answer the problem, so I don't know that I feel good about it. This is a very reasonable hand that I'm going to mulligan because I think Leyline of the Void is quite important. Yeah, this is strong. I'm going to keep this and maybe get rid of Murktide Regent here. And I think I will lead on Tamiyo as a silly Magic the Gathering card. And then next turn I can crab, fetch land, fetch, and have an okay ponder. Opponent surveils, keeping the card. Force of Will is interesting. That might make me just, like, not play ponder this turn. Just kind of keep tabs about what we eat into exile here. Do that thing. And I think I will just pass the turn. Urza Saga, very good backup plan for all of that artifact mana. I think I just fetch and I'm good with Pithing Needle resolving. And I just don't intend on transforming Tamiyo, but keeping Tamiyo as the clue machine. I will say no to another Leyline of the Void. Alright, backside of Tamiyo named. Goblin Engineer is just going to send something to exile. I don't think that's actually a relevant card here. Yeah, an opponent declines. I think maybe you use that and just take a bad card out of your deck, but maybe that's not true playing against Mill in particular. I think I'm gonna ponder and try to hit a land drop. Success. I think I'm gonna bury stock up and just take 2 lands. I probably crack a clue on my opponent's turn. All right, let's do this. I also have the ability to technically mill myself, but that's not something I probably want to do. And we're just gonna lean on Tamiyo clues here to do a lot of work. Saga goes up, another Saga. Those are gonna be some large artifacts, and I don't like that. Opponent has 41 cards remaining in library. I will now get down to that stock up. These Urza Saga tokens are going to get haste, and it's going to be a problem. I think I want to try to find another crab with this ponder draw. A Tasha's? A Tasha's does serious work. Okay. So, land drop, mill 3, down to 38. I will get 3 more here, and put you to 35. And then this is going to be so much. My opponent's deck is so low to the ground here. Yeah, that was, what, 23 cards? Notably, we got the skateboard. That's kind of a big deal. You may make a friend. I will send in with Tamiyo. And then the hope is just that, like, I find another crab and play a fetch land, and we're just donezo here. So, Urza Saga's in 2 different places here. This might be able to, like, fetch up a Mox Opal to make the other one be able to activate easily. It is a Lotus Petal, sure. Or sorry, there's already a Mox Opal in play. I will make a block here. I'm going to end up probably taking 7 and trying not to die. So this is worth 3. I think I'm just trying to make it another turn here. I think I'm going to dig with stock up. A crab and a Field of Ruin seems pretty reasonable. That's a mill 6. All right. So crab is not the fetch land that I wanted. That would just instantly end things, but it's fine. Opponent down to 4 cards in library. I am passing the turn here. I believe that I'm going to need to chump block 2 construct tokens here. They're gonna be like 8s or 9s. So I suspect that I need to like go block on Goblin Engineer, and then play Field of Ruin for lethal. Fails to find. Ooh, I don't have a blue card. Hope that's not the deal breaker. Grinding Station. All right. So if I block this, block this, block this, that's no good. I'm taking this Core Steel Cutter was so good. So I'm reliant on Tamiyo clues to see me through here. I could Tamiyo block on the Monk and take 10. It's crazy that like this not being the 0-3 crab is so relevant here. All right, I will maximize life total and we'll try to Yu-Gi-Oh this shit off the top, I guess. I am at 8. Okay. Yeah, we can cast that. That is fine. Ooh. All right. Wasn't close. Never worried. We still have to win another one, though. Was there anything in the deck that I didn't see in game 1 that is super concerning? This is looking mostly like the same stuff, so not really. I could do Consign as something to fight versus the Urza Saga token production, and that would not be embarrassing. What did Tasha's mill? 20 or 30? That plus a crab or an archive trap probably just kills. Very, very awkward matchup, though. How important is Murktide Regent? Maybe I do just usually mill my opponent out. All right. Get a little more interactive here. I think life is very hard if I don't open on Leyline of the Void. I don't mulligan that. I know what the last words that just came out of my mouth were, but I certainly don't mulligan Tamiyo double force, right? Opponent fetches. Get out of here. Absolutely not. We will deploy our Tamiyo. I would really prefer not to Force of Will. Goblin Welder is a horrifying Magic the Gathering card. Don't play. So I can either answer Urza Saga tokens or answer Corey Steelcutter stuff. I'm going to answer the Corey Steelcutter stuff. Both of these things are very strong, though. Yep. I think if I let Corey Steelcutter get established, even if I transform Tamiyo, the Corey Steelcutter probably beats Tamiyo. Prowess is strong. All right, Tasha's is a good pickup. In with Tamiyo immediately. We'll use the non-fetch land first and just take a redraw. Ponder is kind of whatever. Again, though, Tasha's is great. Bulk comes down. Petal comes down. Bobble comes down. Yeah, this would have been a phenomenal Corey Steelcutter. So my opponent gets their Bobble redraw. Oh, oh shit. All right. Aww. Taps down my Tamiyo. Gonna cost a Lotus Petal to activate Urza Saga then. So let's fetch. And it would be cool if we randomly exile Skateboard here. So 49 cards in library, down to 25. Jeez. Did not hit Skateboard, did hit Pithing Needle. We'll take it. The beatdown here is real, though. I probably kill my opponent by casting another Tasha's. I could do math on it, though, right? Like, there's a bunch of Emeries still as the more expensive things. I do have to worry about this thing just absolutely killing me. In for 4, down to 13. Is there a timeline where I ponder first? I think I just use a Surveil land or something. Let's see. I'm going to put this into play in case my opponent has... No, they don't have days. I've seen their deck. Tasha's, 22. Down to 1. Okay. So I can see all of the welders. I don't think I'm dying to that combo. All right. Let's just try to find something that will mill my opponent. I'm going to do it off the ponder. Okay, there is Archive Trap. That'll do it. So I will go bam, bam, bam. No shuffle. Next turn, I go land drop Archive Trap. I think the mill deck is going to be triumphant. I think I get to block a construct token here and be okay. So there's an Emery, which does not have haste as of right now. My opponent is swinging for lethal. I did have to hold back the Tamiyo block here. I'm eating 7, going to 5, and there is the win. My opponent does go down to 0. They drew their card, and Emery was involved, so we're good. That was a cool first round, but that was not a good pairing for us. It worked out. My opponent's deck is sweet, though. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. If you're looking to store your decks online, you're not going to find a better website. It's super organized and easy to use, and I sort everything that I do into a ton of format-specific folders, and you can customize the way that you use Moxfield to your liking. Whether you like text views or visual views of multiple different natures, Moxfield has it all. And it's so easy to use, you might even say that it's a snap. All right. I recognize this username. Oh gosh, I am not going to remember the name of this card. What is the name of the derpy reanimator dragon that mills 3 and you bring something with it? You reanimate it, mill 3, and if you mill a creature, you get it too. Comment section, do your thing. I am totally blanking. Anyway, I think this player was responsible for iterating on a lot of reanimator builds that used this card. And we have Force of Will Surgical Extraction game 1 here, so pretty reasonable. The Archive Trap gets a little weird if my opponent is playing Reanimator. I think I'll hold fetches here. I have the gist of what I'm probably looking for. 1 crab or 2 crabs. I think I am in for 2 crabs. And I can Archive Trap my opponent here. Surveil land. Yup. Fuck it, we ball. Yeah. Oh, it's Raph and Mikey. Trouble makers? Makers or maxers? Makers. Yep. Awkward pairing. Resolves. Surely force of will, right? Nope, went with surgical extraction, which is also reasonable. Naming one of these zero cost options is probably right there. And now my opponent knows that they need to fight through a force of will. So mill 3, and I think just go ahead and fetch now to deploy the crab, because I have another crab coming next turn anyway. Or, sorry, I have another land drop coming next turn anyway. Yes. And then we can see my opponent pop off. We'll see if they go for this. There's probably math to be done based on the number of things that have already been milled. Is reveal 5? No, reveal until you hit a creature. All right. 7 plus 6, not dead. Or maybe more accurately, not dead yet. Then my opponent can draw 7 and presumably find like lands and lotus petals to allow them to put an Archon of Cruelty into play. This is the Kitsune thingy time, right? So this is a matchup where my Tasha's Hideous Laughter is going to be bad and my Kitsune's technique is potentially pretty strong. I will go land drop and mill you. Mill you again. Field of Ruin. I will get an island. I will get to look at a few more cards here. The Grizzlebrand, unfortunately, is just going to kill me in the air. I need one more turn here. The fetch land represents 12, and I just don't get that turn. I can try to play this one more conservatively, also tramples, than I did by not doing the Archive Trap on turn 1. But if my opponent has another 13 cards here, I'm not really in contention for a game win, I think. GG. I'm interested in Leyline. I'm interested in Kitsune's technique. Then probably don't get to cut any counter spells. I think I am playing both Leyline and Surgical. Where are the other 3 cuts? Is it just Archive Traps? Do I just go down on that? I don't know that I go down on that. Can I go down Ponder? Maybe I can go down Ponder. I am worried that if I go down too many mill cards, I just end up prolonging the game in a way that is negative. Ugh. No. Double Leyline and Surgical Extraction. I think I'm going to keep this. It's awkward. I don't know what my opponent's pivot is going to be, but I'm going to try opening up on 2 of these and hoping that this buys time until I find the island to kick this game off. I don't know that I want to go to 5. Shallow Grave as well. Yep. I'm hoping we're not in a matchup where like Force of Vigor taking out both of those at the same time is realistic. I am very good to go once I hit a single land, but I am likely to miss a few times along the way before that happens. Such is life. It's when we start running into the Barrogoyf type cards that are a pivot that I have a problem. I've got the Reanimator stuff covered for now. Whoa. And somewhat awkwardly, I probably can't discard a creature. There is an Unmask. This might be one of those awkward times where my opponent just reanimates my Tamiyo and runs away with it while I stumble. Oh, they took Brainstorm. That was the card that I was probably going to discard to hand size. I don't know, I probably... I think I hold that. Because it is mill for double Ruin Crab. I will play it rather than discard if I am about to discard. Yeah, alright. Just briefly talking about Mystic Sanctuary here. This is one of those times where like an island is way better than a Mystic Sanctuary, right? Another Shallow Grave. Deck? Alright. Honestly, it is pretty funny. Alright. I will discard... I'm going to discard Daze. We're fully past the point where that's relevant. Hexing Squelcher. Yes, this is not a card that will kill me once I play either one of my creatures. All right, we are in business. Tamiyo first. Is this land untapped? Put it onto the battlefield. Got it. All right. Are we just going to hardcast a Grizzlebrand? We are just going to hardcast a Grizzlebrand. That is a bit of a problem. I can't answer that. My current plan is block it and brainstorm. That doesn't feel great. Or alternatively, do so much mill that I clock faster than it. I guess that's possible, but it's weird. Dark Ritual, we're going. Ball Therapy, seems good. You know most of my hand. Yeah, there go the crabs. At least some of the crabs have different names, so that helps a little bit. Lotus Petal. Now I'm probably losing that Brainstorm. And I'm correct. Alright, opponent is passing the turn. They're going to discard a bunch of cards. I'm in a bad spot. I stumbled for a while. It is possible that I could maybe find the perfects and navigate my way out of this game, but I find it pretty unlikely. Especially if my opponent has some leftover artifact mana that they can just use to cast another big fatty next turn. Let's potentially take out a land here. This forces my opponent to search, allowing me to archive trap them down to 27 cards. And the plan is now block with Tamiyo and hope for the best. Notably, I have the 0-2 crab, not the 0-3 ruin crab here. I think I will just go ahead and do this, and we're intending to block with a Tamiyo like every turn, and hope that things work out. Grizzlebrand draws 7, opponent back down to 4. They have used Cabal Therapy previously, so that's in their deck. The one that they cast previously is in exile from Leyline of the Void, but they haven't got like a 13-card hand. There goes the other Tamiyo. Life's bad. Oh, wow, that is a Stronghold Gambit. That is one that you don't see every day. Devastating. So there's a way to get creatures in through Leyline of the Void. So this just kills me, right? So 9, 15, plus 3. Yeah. We are 2 for 2 on graveyard-oriented combo decks with our mill deck. And we got one of them. The other one took us down pretty easily. GG. So we are going to be settling in for a longer game here with this hand. I have 3 land drops, which is 9 cards milled before we start taking into account something like a Field of Ruin activation, which may or may not actually be on the table. How dare you? How dare you kill that crab? Hopefully I can find another here. I'm willing to brainstorm now to look, despite the awkwardness of this. Okay, I did find another crab. I think I put a land back and then hide a ponder on top. Then go land drop and new crab. A lot of things we could be playing against here. The more basic lands my opponent has, the worse the Field of Ruin that is currently floating on top of my library is. I'm just going to daze that. Let's not deal with that. I might surgically extract Moonshadow as a called shot. I'm going to do that. I don't want my opponent playing one of those. There's a bunch of other creatures this could be. Okay, it is Nethergoyf instead. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is there anything neat here that I need to pay attention to? Not really. Okay. Nethergoyf Archive Trap interaction is not favorable for me. My opponent has searched, so I can Archive Trap for free, which probably grows this by 2 or 3 points. 3 for 3 on decks that care about the graveyard. Wow, we honestly got away with murder there. It's only a 4-5. So before Bowmaster comes down, I will cash in this Ponder. Field of Ruin is relevant for removing Wasteland. I don't know how excited I am about it. I'm considering milling 3 on myself. I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to go bam, 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 no shuffle, drop Tamiyo. Oh, this one only mills my opponent. Okay, now it's a 5-6. What just hit the graveyard that was different? The Thoughtseize. All right, got it. So my opponent probably goes Wasteland, taps out for Barrowglyph. Yeah, I will take the hit here. That's fine. I'm at 13. Opponent has 29 cards left in deck. They are going for Bowmasters at sorcery speed. That's not what I expected to happen. This is now very awkward for me, trying to do that whole Field of Ruin thing that I want to be doing. I don't want to draw the Force of Will that's currently on top of my deck. Yeah, I don't want to draw the Force of Will that's currently on top of my deck. We're doing this anyway. That going to work the way that I want it to. It might not, actually. But it might keep my opponent from playing the Barrowglyph if they... yeah, okay. So opponent could Wasteland target themselves. They did not. So now I have shuffled. I have a different thing on top of my library. I mill 3. I think I just chill with Tamiyo. I think we're not super interested in drawing extra cards right now. I think I am just trying to keep my life total high. I think I will eat 5 here, and then I probably have to start chump blocking a Barrowglyph next turn. Not ideal. I'm looking to draw like a Tasha's. Nice. So that'll bring opponent to 18, and then I will Tasha's. It should be worth roughly this amount. Yeah. Okay. This is going to be tight. This is going to be very tight. I think I need to hit a mill card or land drop next turn, and I'm okay. So opponent not fetching, opponent not cracking Bobble. Everybody comes to party. This block needs to happen. A block here needs to happen. This is 5 plus 1, 6. I am dead to a Bowmasters. I can see 2 of them in exile there. Yeah, there's a decent chance my opponent has a Bowmasters. I would like any land to be lethal. I think I need to try to keep Ruin Crab alive and not throw it here. Let's see if my opponent has the last Bowmasters. Damage. Goif. Yu-Gi-Oh! Fuck! No! Any land or any, I guess, non-archive trap mill spell is lethal there, but that's not going to do it. Yeah, this is block, die to all 3 of the remaining things. Oh, tragically close there. If circumstances are slightly different and Bowmasters doesn't kill me, I can let my opponent hit... Or no, this is a May mill. Never mind. That's... Okay. So, do I Leyline here? I probably Leyline here. With Goifs and Moonshadows and whatnot. So now, how do I feel about the Kitsune's technique? I'm not boarding out the one that I have. I'm not sure if I want more. It would be fine. I might get rid of Days on the draw. I think I'm going to call this good for the game that is on the play. And then on the draw, I can just play more copies of Kitsune's technique in an attempt to do something that catches me up. Just send in with a crab, mill half the library with sneak. Kind of catches me up versus my opponent starting on a Moonshadow or another Goif or whatever. This is an unexciting but reasonable looking hand that I think I will just keep. One of the things that Days does is let you protect Hedron Crab to ensure that you get at least 6 cards out of it. Like if my opponent just Fatal Pushes here, it's a little awkward. I think I still just want to do this. They either do that or Ponder on turn 1. Ooh, Dark Ritual. Ooh, that's a lot of mana. This turn could be exceptionally bad for me. Yeah, it already is. That's 2 cantrips kind of locked in my hand. Okay. Can I get away with not casting these cards? I don't think that I can. I don't think I can Brainstorm and let Hedron Crab die. I think I'm going to cast the Ponder. Leyline, you're late. Yeah. No shuffle. I'll get pinged. I'll go to 18. Do I fetch Archive Trap away? There's no guarantee that my opponent has another land, especially a fetch land after opening up like that. Milia. Fetch. The mill grows Nethergoyf. Nethergoyf currently a 3/4. Nethergoyf remains a 3/4. Here is a Ruin Crab. The Crabs have a lot of fuel, but this is so much power, and only one of these blocks the Orc Army token. So I suspect that I'm just taking 6 on the attack. Yeah. Yeah. Like, this kills me in 3 turns. The double Dark Ritual turn was wild. I'm at 11. What if... more crab, though? No! My crabs! This feels like missed damage, if my opponent did not cast that already. Assuming I block this, I'm taking 3, 6, 7, 8. I think I go with the fetch land. Opponent to 41. Fetch. Island. Opponent to 38. These ones go to exile. Like so. Okay, I mean, that was north of 20 cards. Maybe I could hit another one and be fine. I guess I also need to think about what is going on here. I will block the Bowmaster. I am not taking lethal. 3, 6, 7, 8. I am at 2. Can't cast Brainstorm. Does Tamiyo buy me another turn? No. Douthie has Shadow no matter what. Yeah, so I can get my opponent to 10 cards left. And then unfortunately be dead. We are just falling just a hair touch in terms of speed there. My opponent's double Dark Ritual turn was wild. GG. Okay. Opening hand doesn't do anything. No blue mana. Ooh! It is finally time to be a sneaky little fox. I'm in for this. What card goes back? Tamiyo Brainstorm is a thing. Hedron Grab Double Fetch Land is a thing. I think I'm getting rid of Brainstorm. Feels weird to say no to Tamiyo Brainstorm. Are we just going to get paired against Oops and die for not having Force of Will or Surgical Extraction in the opening hand? All right, opponent keeps on 5. I'm going to play the Tamiyo first. Oddly, I think if one of these 2 cards gets hit by a removal spell, I want it to be Tamiyo here, since Hedron Crab plus double fetch plus Kitsune's technique is just so much mill. All right, not Oops all spells. Excellent. There's some awkwardness here. All right, I'm going to do this, but not fetch. Send Tamiyo in, investigate. So I do this during declare blockers. Fetch. Island. We give them the fox. I will take half, please. And furthermore, if I take half, I'm taking the good stuff with me. No, no, let it resolve. It's very fun. Sewers? Opponent keeps their card. It is the days. Unfortunate. I could technically surgically extraction something here to shuffle away the card that my opponent kept on top. I don't think I'm going to do that. Sewers comes back down. I think with Crab here, I find something more real than like a Daze or Misty Rainforest to take out. Keeping cards on top with Undercity Sewers slightly awkward in the face of Hedron Crab. All right, so we Crab, and we start going after your stuff here. Ooh, Street Wraith, sure. I'm gonna go ahead and try to resolve my Tamiyo here. It's Doomsday. I think I'm just going to take out Doomsday now. Let's not worry about that card. I can Daze to back it up if need be. There is an Edge of Autumn sacrificing a land. I wanted you to be crazy. Good. You weren't. But the dream was there. GG. So one of the concerns versus Doomsday is that my opponent can have creature-based pivots. I think I just kind of ignore that stuff. I think I will be doing Consign to Memory Crimes to help out with Thassa's Oracle. What am I boarding out here? Is it Kitsune's technique? Since after my opponent creates the Doomsday pile, it's milling like 2 cards? That seems reasonable. I think I'm keeping the Surgicals to mess with Doomsday pile order, as well as just mill a Doomsday, take the Doomsdays. That still seems totally reasonable. Past the turn Doomsday lines are like horrifying for my opponent in the face of the crabs. Is it Brainstorm? I could see it being Brainstorm or Ponder. If my opponent has a pivot of Bowmasters, trimming Brainstorm is fine. This is something I can play at instant speed to kind of hide something from discard. Let's go down on some Ponders. Going down on the sorcery when I want to leave open some instants seems okay. Okay, I've got an archive trap, I've got a consign, I've got 2 crabs. This is reasonable. Without Force of Will, this isn't going to keep up with some of my opponent's fastest hands that just go Dark Ritual Doomsday. I'm hoping that we are settling in for a longer game anyway. There is Tamiyo. That is fine. That can resolve. That is a card that will generate a lot of value. Hopefully this resolves. All right, it does. If I draw a Surgical, Doomsday is on the table. Notably, my opponent has Carpet of Flowers. That is something that I should keep in mind here. And I will deploy a crab. Need to keep in mind that Veil of Summer is a thing later on. Tamiyo may investigate. How many cards on average is Tasha's going to get? Like 25? My opponent's deck is very low to the ground. I guess it depends on whether they have some Barrow-Goyf type pivot stuff. Actually, Force of Will is going to throw that off a bit. I think I might have overestimated that. Alright, there is Straight Wraith Cycling, which transforms Tamiyo, which in theory can get a Doomsday back. So that needs to be on my radar as a thing. I think we are 4 for 4 for matchups where milling my opponent is awkward or potentially negative. Yep. So I'm in for this. And then I don't think my opponent can Doomsday anymore if I leave a fetch land in play. Because my opponent's Doomsday pile is 5 cards and I fetch for 6. I think I'm going to hold up a Consign and a fetch land. And then this also makes Carpet of Flowers worse. I don't think I am interested in consigning a Carpet trigger. I'm in fact going to always yield to that. Carpet is a little bit of an annoying card on Magic Online because it will trigger main 1 as well as main 2 if you didn't use it in main 1. Brainstorm, great Magic card. I will let you do that. Tasha's also probably close to lethal on its own. I don't know that I just like jam that next turn or anything. Notably, Tasha's is each opponent. It is not a targeted thing for Veil of Summer purposes. Not current enough with Doomsday to know how many Veil of Summers they are running exactly right now. All right, Tamiyo is just plussing. Tamiyo getting to 8 and ultimating, I guess, is also just a thing. Not sure how much that matters, but it's a thing, certainly. All I'm seeing is mill 1. Opponent keeps their stuff. Again, I'm not fetching here. I can do better with my current fetch lands. Ooh, Field of Ruin is neat. So here is another crab. So this is just mill 18. This will be 27. Seems good. Getcha. All right. So now 2 of the Force of Wills, 2 of the Doomsdays are gone. This is certainly lethal next turn. And again, so if I fetch and everything is fine, my opponent is just dead, actually. I've seen 1 Abrupt Decay, though, which is awkward. I should have done this on my turn if I was going to do it. So, yeah. And then repeat it. Maybe this is too aggressive and I shouldn't be going for this. Believe it or not, I haven't played the Doomsday versus Mill matchup very many times. Yeah, there's the Abrupt Decay punish. Should have done it on my turn, so that did not happen. So I will mill 6, leaving my opponent with exactly 1 card in library after draw step, and giving more mana for Carpet of Flowers. Yeah, I took a half measure there that I should not have taken. On going for blue mana here is surprising. I would have expected my opponent going for black if they were trying to build a Doomsday pile. Going for Force of Will. That is a Thassa's Oracle from hand. That's going to resolve. And then I just replicate this Consign trigger. Replicating once, paying 2 mana. My opponent needs double Force of Will or otherwise double Counterspell. That is a Daze on 1. I am out of mana. And that'll be a Force of Will on the other. All right. Yeah, I took a half measure and probably punted that game because of it. I think if I do that on my turn, I win. And if I don't do it, we're still playing Magic. I was not thinking about Thassa's Oracle from hand if the Abrupt Decay happened. So I guess that's something I should be thinking about too. Which means that a tight game is scary because Thassa's Oracle Cavernous Souls is a thing. Alright, I am in. We have multiple crabs. I would like it better if some of these were actual fetch lands instead. But such is life. An ETB tapped land. Mill 1, mill 1, mill 1. No freebie. More crabs. I think I float the fetch land in play, but don't crack it, and then don't play the other crab. I can do that on the following turn. Delta comes down. Thoughtseize is slightly annoying. I think my Daze is better than my crab, but my opponent might be able to just naturally play around the Daze by waiting a turn. So if they can go now, they just do so by taking Daze. And if they can't go now, they just play around it and they take my Hedron crab. Alright, there we go. Tropical Island and Tamiyo. Yes, that is a lot of Hedron crab. Now, I think I play this one, mill my opponent for 9. Alright, we're just going to save targets and always yield to these at this point. We know what's going on. Always yield. Play another Hedron crab. This fetch land that is in play is now worth 12. We'll keep it around for doomsday reasons and for if I draw another crab. This deck is more competitive than I was expecting it to be in terms of racing opponents. Like, there's a very real chance that I just turn 4 my opponent here with a respectable draw. That is cracking a clue. One less card I have to mill. Let's see what this follow-up is. A Consider should transform that Tamiyo. And Tamiyo can plus. I'm not attacking and killing that Tamiyo ever without the 2 of Murktide Regent boarded in. Daze is probably not particularly strong here. Triggers. Mill my opponent for 12. Force of Will, I think I just junk. I'm just trying to find one more thing that mills my opponent. And the Daze would do it, right? If I Daze literally any spell and return a land to hand, that is just 12 for a total of 24 between the fetch and the returned land. So land drop. Tamiyo pluses. No spell cast. Slightly annoying for me. I mean, I will cast that. I'm going to assume that I find something that does not require me to Daze my own brainstorm here. Wrong. Awkward. All right. I think we're putting back 1 and 2. Casting Tamiyo, holding priority, Daze, returning my Thundering Falls, which I will pay for. Thundering Falls, trigger all of my friends. Now, fetch, and even if a crab is destroyed, this should still be lethal. Yeah. Triggers. Fuck, Memory's Journey! Uh-oh. I was not thinking about Memory's Journey. Welcome to things you don't normally have to think about. Okay, opponent missed it at end of turn. So they could have used mana on their turn to do this. So, Thoughtseize and Jace. They are not guaranteed to draw the Jace. Oh, do they just have the Oracle, though? Yeah, they just have the Oracle. Fuck. So I need to mill my opponent, partially leave the fetch land in play. They had the Oracle already. Oh, that's weird. All right, where are we at record-wise? Did we win one of these? We won one of these. Let's see if we can put another on the board. GG's. All right, final round. Opening hand is not super milly, to use an untechnical term. Fuck. My opponent's on the play and has their Tamiyo first. Seems good. I don't think we throw back Tamiyo brainstorm hands. I think I play Tamiyo here. And my Tamiyo does resolve. I will take it. We've got a land drop. No 100% clear indication of what exactly my opponent is playing yet. Although my opponent now gets to look at my hand and get a clear indication of what sort of crimes I am interested in today. I've lost the Brainstorm rather than the Hedron Crab. I will take that. And now we play the Tamiyo's Kiss game for a little while. And we kind of see who comes out on top at the end. A Daze will be very good against... Ooh. Alright, I'm doing this before making the land drop given the deck that I am playing. Daze is good here. Alright. Milieu. Cavern of Souls. Doomsday again? Let's see if we learned anything from the last time around. I'm gonna fetch. Do Island. Mill 3. Surgical Extraction around Daze on Doomsday? Getcha? Eh? Oh, and one from hand. Nice. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Does opponent have creatures that can win the game? No, not really. They could attack with a Street Wraith or a Thassa's Oracle until I die. So now I will just go ahead and transform my Tamiyo as well. Strunk. Put back 1 and 2. Tamiyo plus. Call it a turn. So there's the Misty. We're going to yield to some Tamiyo triggers. And then opponent can fetch and draw with their clues or whatever. Surveil is fine. Blue is fine. Street Wraith will transform Tamiyo. I don't think that's actually that big of a deal. Yep. So at this stage, I would like to hit a Thassa's Oracle and extract it. And then I don't think I can lose. So there's a Mill 3. All right, cool. And also just send them to exile. Sure, let's try to send them to exile. 38 cards currently in library. Down to 22. No oracles hit there. Got it. Am I doing Tamiyo plus stuff, or do I just want a Tamiyo minus on that Hideous Laughter and go again that way? I think I will Tamiyo plus and leave myself with flexibility for next turn. Because I have a decent amount of flexibility. I could Field of Ruin next turn. I could just do my whole fetch land thing next turn. Blue token is fine. And I have Tamiyo minus on Surgical and Tasha's. I can also just Tamiyo plus and then do the -7. I think I'm going to see what happens with this first Hedron Crab mill. It is a Tamiyo. This resolving probably ends the game. Me getting another turn probably wins the game with the Tamiyo ultimate, though. So I think I'm just going to go the Tamiyo ultimate route. All right, opponent going to 8 here. I am fine. Activating Field of Ruin. Cycling an Edge of Autumn, sure. So no ability to resolve that there. So let's take half of my library, shall we? You may cycle your Street Wraith. All right. I want to kill my opponent while leaving a fetch land in play for Memory's Journey purposes. I'm pretty sure casting this just does it, but I don't want to do the math on it. I think I just play a couple of crabs. So ThrabenU. Let's find a fetch land to put into play. I'm going to assume that there are still basics in my deck. Oop, nope. So I see 1 island, 2 island, 3 islands in hand, 2 in play for a total of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, one of those is not actually live. Okay, awkward. So this will mill my opponent for 9. I'd like to hit an Oracle. Okay, I hit an Oracle. And there is no Memory's Journey in sight, no green mana. So I think I just Surgical Extraction on Thassa's Oracle, and we'll just use this also as a chance to make sure there's nothing tricksy going on. Opponent can Force of Will. I have multiple Force of Wills in my hand over here. I will Force of Will, pitch some other card, and that'll do. All right, a little more delicate than I wanted it to be, given that I drew half of my deck. Oh, I think I counted the islands, but I didn't count the Thundering Falls there. All right, so I think I boarded my consigns before. and I think I decided that Kitsune's technique was questionable if my opponent has a 5-card library. What did I do? I think I trimmed Ponder. I think that's what I did before. We're up a game versus Doomsday, which is great. Very strange matchup, though. Okay, I think I am willing to keep the double counterspell Tamiyo opener here. Oh, we're going now. I'm just going to Force of Will that. Woohoo! I can't daze when I am on the draw here. I suspect that my opponent just builds a pile that beats a daze, and this is game over. I could randomly spike Consign. We could see my opponent hovering over a Street Wraith here. I could randomly spike Consign, and that would be cool. But I imagine some sort of Street Wraith, Edge of Autumn, Cavern of Souls pile with maybe another cantrip in the middle there. Ends up beating me if I just have daze. Oh, am I just going to die on turn 1? That is unfortunate if true. Now this can be Edge of Autumn. LED. Blah. Street Wraith cycle, and now this is just Thassa's or okay, we can do Consider as well. Yeah, opponent built a pile with Cavern, didn't end up using it. My days! That was just the nuts though, right? GG. We will try again. Alright, my opening hand is fine. I've got a Crab and a Force of Will. My opponent is aggressively mulliganing here, which hopefully ends up meaning that something like this as interaction is enough to get me into the mid-game. I do unfortunately have to use my fetch land to play the Hedron Crab, since Field of Ruin does not produce blue. Alright, we're in play. Underground Sea and a Thoughtseize. Force of Will, probably my best card here. A Jace, is it Wielder of Mysteries? The 4-mana Jace that you just draw a card means that Consign is just totally beatable. Alright, that's quite good. I think I'm still going to cast this Ponder. I think I need to try to smooth out this hand a little bit. Ooh, Daze on top of all of that? Yeah. I think I'm going to go bam, 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 no shuffle, give you the crabs. Let's just save target. Always yield there. Ooh, an Oracle in Graveyard for surgical extraction purposes. Archive Trap also kind of neat versus Doomsday, actually, just thinking about it. I think I'm just going to draw here, do my Field of Ruin, mill my opponent, and then pass with a very large number of options available to me. I don't know that I'm actually going to do anything with my mana. I kind of want to draw that Archive Trap. Another land drop. Yeah, oddly, I think I'm good just drawing here and passing the turn again. Because then I have Force of Will, Pitch, Brainstorm, Consign, Daze, and Archive Trap all as pieces of interaction. And technically also Hedron Crab, Field of Ruin. Like, that's a thing too. Opponent has tapped and untapped some black mana, so we're thinking about it. Here we go. I really just want to let this resolve, given the interaction that I have. I don't know that that's correct. I'm just going to go ahead and force. Okay. So now this all can resolve. I'm not dazing this. And my opponent has to contend with both Field of Ruin and Archive Trap, messing with their pile, as well as Daze and Consign. I think as soon as my opponent goes to draw something, I Archive Trap them. And if they go to the end step, I get to Field of Ruin them and probably significantly mess up their pile. I don't know that they can go for a pass the turn line. It's just so easy for the crab to kill them by itself. Okay, it has begun. So, do I Field of Ruin now and attempt to put my opponent's things in a random order? That means that Edge of Autumn in response is awkward. Okay. Archive Trap you. Haha! That's the GG's. And that brings us to not a positive finish in the league, but honestly, for a brew like a 2-3 finish like this is totally fine. GG. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Overall thoughts on the deck list. Pretty good. Probably better than I expected, honestly. Our games of Legacy were so fast today that Kitsune's technique at 2 mana plus rebuying a creature felt slow. This was something that I was really expecting to board in every round as I boarded Surgical out. And then instead we got paired against 5 decks in a row where Surgical Extraction was relevant. And like the graveyard was relevant in every single round. So I think this is a we will play this again someday on the channel and see how it feels sort of thing, because conceptually this is very, very strong as the first major mill card. You know, I don't know that you should expect 30 from it, as like your opponent is going to draw their opening hand, draw a few cards, maybe you're going to mill with a crab. But this is still worth a decent amount. There are diminishing returns on it, so maybe that's why there is one in the main deck and the other 3 are in the sideboard. I think this is a very good way to round out the deck, and I am happy that this card was there, even if it didn't, like, go crazy today. I think we cast it once and it got dazed. I will say, this deck felt like the thinking man's deck, so to speak. This was a little more intricate to play than I expected, with like very weird things to think about versus Doomsday, and like Memory's Journey was relevant, Thassa's Oracle from hand was relevant, Jace from hand was something to think about. Fetching and leaving fetches hanging versus Doomsday. Timing of cards as to potentially grow or not grow Goyfs. Like there was a lot going on here that I would not have expected at a surface level. Despite the negative record, I'm going to give this one a thumbs up. I think this is a great deck to take to your FNM or your weekly Legacy event. I think it will be very, very fun in that capacity. And I imagine that if you already own generic blue-black Legacy cards like Leylines and Forces, that the remainder of this deck is probably pretty inexpensive. And then someone in the comments is going to be like, actually, Tasha's Hideous Laughter is $75 and on the fake reserve list. And I'll be sad. I think overall I am glad that I cut Mystic Sanctuary from the deck. Again, I think the turn 1 active blue source for the Crabs and Tamiyo matters so much that you don't play 2 ETB tapped lands. I don't think I mind the Surveil land. I think those are just Legacy staples at this point, but I don't know that I want Mystic Sanctuary as well. My sample size of combo-heavy games today, though, like, might just have skewed my perception of how Mystic Sanctuary would have been. All right, that was enjoyable. If you have any thoughts on other things we can throw into this deck list, throw them down in the comments below, and I hope you have a great rest of the day, folks. See ya!